Okay, it's my pleasure to welcome my friend Tom Honey to this podcast. So Tom and I were year mates, your PhD year mates or batchmates at Manchester, and ever since I met him for the first time some 7 years ago, I got the impression that he was someone who was a fan of, let's say, substantiating arguments with scrupulous examples or reference from history. So today with him, we'll be talking about the relationship between age and political office, elected political office, let's say. So we'll be touching on questions like, well, pardoning the pun, the age-old questions like,
Very good.
sorry. We'll be touching on some age-old questions like how old is too old for political office? Does age really matter? How has it mattered over history? And our focus, well, my focus mainly will be the US, because will be the US political scene, because there is a very important presidential election coming up in the US next year. But yeah, I mean, not all of our answers, not all of our references have to be American, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. So, Tom, my first question, unsurprisingly, is about Joe Biden.
Sure.
Is there a case to be made that he is probably too old to run next year?
Yeah, I think there is. So yeah, I'm Tom. Nice to meet you all. So just get that out of the way. I think there is a case to make that he's too old. I think just in terms of, well, I think the older you are, the kind of, I mean, one of the I'll say age-old problems, just to kind of ram that home, is that it's about, political office, but also the problem of succession. So when a leader becomes, or just what happens when a leader either leaves political office or dies, in terms of how do then political structures kind of move forward afterwards. So I think there's definitely a case to be made for Joe Biden because, I did some little kind of looking up kind of the age statistics and this sort of thing. I mean, he's going to have the best healthcare in the world, so that will help a lot. But now he can do so much. Even I think his chances of dying. Okay, let's say, I think for like an average case here in the UK would be.
I thought you'd say for an average Joe.
That would have been better, but no. No, so for an average, I think this was for average male. Was it unisex looked up? I think it was unisex looked up, but anyway. So the chance of dying if you're 80 in the UK over the next I looked at this based on the next 6 years. Basically, I looked up. Biden is 80. By the end of the next presidency, he'll be 86 or 85. So I looked up chance of dying over that period. I think it's around 40%. So let's say it's better for Biden at 25%. It's a 1 in 4 chance, and that's putting a lot on. 1 in 4 is not the best kind of. It's a pretty big probability of happening, and as we've seen in previous US political history recently, having an 80-year-old putting the entire kind of political structure on their shoulders and trying to say, "Oh no, I can live for the next 4 or 5 years and carry everything," hasn't worked out because the example to go to is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That
wasn't elected political office, though.
It wasn't elected political office, but at the time she could have retired, and there would have been enough seats in the Senate for Obama to put in someone in her place who was much younger. So yeah, I think there's an argument to make because he's taking a risk that doesn't necessarily have to be made. Though on the other hand, there isn't. From my kind of looking at it, I'm not sure there's a kind of obvious next candidate or successor to Biden.
Right. So I would like to say here that famously, FDR won 4 elections, 32, yes. 40, 32, 36, 40, 44.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as you know, they had to bring in the 22nd Amendment to stave off the possibility of a future, a monarch-like president who is always, in a way, popular and keeps winning elections.
Yes.
When he died, Truman became the leader, and he wasn't exactly a disastrous president, I don't think. But he refused to run for a second elected term. As in,
Yes.
he did run in
Finish out
44.
the term, then
Yeah. Like it, and as we all know, like Eisenhower, that was the Eisenhower Adlai Stevenson race, right? The one that he didn't run in 52.
I think so. Yeah. So it'd be Truman and then Eisenhower. So
Yeah. So I am willing to place a good amount of money as a bet that Truman was a better politician or was more politically sagacious than Kamala Harris. But even him couldn't, I don't know, muster the courage to run for a second term to be. Sorry, again, I have to be careful for saying this. He ran as FDR's running mate in 44, became the
Yes.
president in 45 when FDR died.
Then he ran for election in 48.
48, and they didn't run for president in 52. So yeah, so why isn't Kamala Harris the obvious candidate?
I can't say I've been keeping up too much with all the US politics. I mean, I'll keep up a little bit. My impression is that I think vice president is notoriously a position where the only thing you actually do is tie break in the Senate. Otherwise, your like powers and like ability to do things in office is pretty minimal. You're just there as kind of so. But I mean, the other way is kind of like putting yourself out there. I haven't seen much from her. That might be a case of just I haven't been paying attention. Yeah, so the office is, well, I guess thinking about it, are there too many examples of vice presidents? I mean, examples I can think of are vice presidents becoming president because the president has died. But
there are examples, but
I guess it's what H.W. Bush was he Ronald Reagan's vice president and then became president.
And actually, he and Dick Cheney would be the two recent most examples of vice presidents who were reasonably powerful. Like they because as you know, like Bush Senior headed the
head of the CIA, wasn't he? Yeah,
for a bit. So yes. During the Iran-Iraq war, during the Contra affair, during lots of things, he was one of the masterminds.
Yeah. So this goes into like Kamala Harris's senator previously. Was it California?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think so.
I just, it's hard to think of. There's plenty of congressmen and senators who seem to be out there doing things. I mean, you could make it wouldn't happen, but I mean, the only reason why people don't talk about, say, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is because she's under 35, I think, still. And the age requirement was a minimum age requirement for the office of president in the US already. So I don't know. I guess it's just almost Biden has become president by default, and he's going again because, well, chances of re-election are always pretty high.
Really?
I think so. Generally, I think putting those in favor, once you're elected, the chance of being re-elected is pretty high. I guess think of the amount of one-term presidents.
Not too many.
Aren't too many. There's lots of two-term ones.
Yeah. So this was related to the second thing that I wanted to ask, and I have some names here that I want to bring up. So over the past few centuries, there have been examples of sitting US presidents who decided to not seek a second term. Although there is one exception, like Teddy Roosevelt. He didn't seek a second term in 1908, but came back as a third-party candidate in 1912 and lost.
Yes, though I think is it Grover Cleveland who served 2 terms, but they weren't consecutive. I think there's at least one example of that.
Yeah. I can't remember the name, but yeah. So I think the examples that I'm thinking of are Rutherford Haynes, Calvin Coolidge, Buchanan, James Buchanan, and James Polk. Polk. Yeah, James K. Polk. And to the best of my knowledge, in none of these cases, age was a crucial factor. Interestingly, and this was quite surprising to me when I happened upon this information. Let's say until the Second World War, the US had 32 presidents. Take a guess, how many of them were 60 or older when they took office? Five.
Five. Okay.
Just five.
I thought it'd be more.
Exactly. I mean, this is mind-boggling because, and the five were John Adams,
makes sense.
Andrew Jackson.
He was quite old even at the time of the American Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was already.
No.
No,
that's the thing. He was in his 40s.
Okay. Well, he became president 20 years after that, I guess.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, the five people who were 60 or above when they became the president before the Second World War were John Adams, Andrew Jackson, William Henry Harrison, Zachary Taylor, and James Buchanan.
Okay.
And that's it. That's it, literally.
Well, I mean, James Buchanan's record is pretty disastrous. I think, was it Harrison died within like 40 days of getting office?
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so my question was going to be, is it a new, let's say, corollary of political discourse to think about age in the way we are thinking about it now? Because yeah. Oh, sorry, I forgot. LBJ, obviously. I shall not seek, I will not accept. There was a famous speech that he made in 1968 saying that he won't run for a second term. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hard. Possibly. I think maybe it's medical science is advanced and just awareness of all these things have advanced. That I believe. No, I guess that we're more aware of kind of what happens during old age. Well, in the sense that chance you'll get some unfortunate disease of old age, so your dementias, your other sorts of diseases like that. I guess there's kind of a greater awareness of those sort of diseases, and I think this kind of makes it so that people see old age as more of a risk. But I guess.
I see what you mean. We know more about incurable diseases now than we did before. And therefore, we look to old age as the period of time in our lives during which the likelihood of us catching those diseases will be the highest. In a way.
I think this,
because when you started your point, I thought you were going to make the opposite point, as in, since we now have more ways of treating difficult diseases, it shouldn't matter to us whether someone is 78 or 88. Clint Eastwood is 93.
I'm not making this argument strongly.
Clint Eastwood is 93 and is still directing films. 93, 92?
Who?
Clint Eastwood.
Oh, yes, he is. Well, I mean, it's a hard point to make. Well, I guess the way I could kind of make it, I mean, chances are when people get older, there can be kind of a cognitive decline. And if you're deciding, who the most powerful man in the world is going to be, do you want someone who's not quite as sharp as he used to be?
Yeah.
It's a lot of responsibility being put on. He's sought out office himself. I guess it's kind of the public's responsibility to make sure that they're making the right decision.
Yeah. At least on paper.
At least on paper, yeah.
Yeah, and also maybe, and this adds to what you just brought up, the fact that now we know more, now we have more technologies. Maybe this can relate to this question. So let's say in the digitized world of today, what happened in 1960 with that famous Nixon-Kennedy debate, where Nixon apparently did quite well for radio, but was disastrous on TV, can't happen now, for example. Like, who are the people who only listens to Radio 4? Okay, what I don't know. I don't know what an American example would be of something like that. But who are the people who only listen to radio, but don't even bother with TV? Maybe there are people who would maybe fall in this category, but my guess
I
would
think there
be,
are.
there aren't too many of them. So in today's age, we are bound to be more aware of the problems or the weaknesses or the let's say frailties that someone can visibly show, or someone can be, let's say, I don't know, detected with or seen with. For example, when Bernie Sanders had that heart attack,
Yes.
I mean, for some reason, I think it seemed very funny to me at the time, because uh, many of his hardcore fans were saying he is not old. Joe Biden is the one who is older, or whatever. And then their guy has a fucking heart attack.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Well, I guess it's, I mean, partly the fact that Bernie Sanders is very old is why he hasn't decided to challenge re-election. Well, part of it. The other bit is never going to beat Biden in a primary anyway. So
Yeah.
there was, absolutely no way. But and it's also, I mean, Biden's probably one of the most friendly to kind of Sanders viewpoints presidents that Sanders will have in his lifetime. So
True. Yeah, and that's
I mean,
that's I think that is I think something unique about the American left in a way. Like even if you look at how people like Sanders or people, let's say, around him have been reacting to the Ukraine war, it is very, let's say, different from how the European left or the old left of mainstream European political spectra have been reacting to it, for example. Anyway, so I mean, my question was going to be if it is Ron DeSantis, for example, someone who is in his, I think he's 44 now, someone who is in his 40s, going up against Biden next year, do you think it will be a significantly tougher challenge for Biden in terms of, let's say, performing well at the debates and then campaigning and then eventually, of course, winning over the swing? Is the word swing voters or swing game voters? Swing voters. Yeah, because remember, like in 2020, when the pandemic was like at its peak, Trump held quite a lot of rallies that were probably ill-advised because Biden didn't hold too many rallies. He was in his basement in Delaware. Is that where he used to live?
That's where he was senator. Yeah.
Yes, somewhere. Like he was in his house, sending out this recorded video messages, and that caught on. Like tons and tons of people went out and voted, either postally or through like normal canonical means. Not okay. That sounds like voting through post isn't a normal way of voting, but anyway. So the question is, if it is DeSantis versus Biden, keeping in mind that this time campaigning will play a very standard role, like it did in 2016, 2012, 2008, and so on. Will it be a difficult challenge for Biden to face up to? And number two, is it possible that the undecided young millennial vote was so galvanized positively, let's say, in 2020, that no matter who the Republican candidate is this time, if those people in, let's say, big cities in traditionally red states, like let's say Atlanta, or what was the other state that went to?
Austin, maybe.
Maybe, Texas. Yeah. I want to say, Atlanta and Georgia, for example. Like if those people keep voting, or okay, maybe keep voting isn't the correct phrase here, because maybe they didn't used to vote pre-2020 so much. So if they vote like they did in 2020, then no matter how, So what are your opinions on these two questions?
Okay, so first question in terms of return to more traditional campaigning.
And DeSantis.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure. I'm skeptical whether he'll be the Republican nominee. There's still a good case to be made that, I mean, Trump might be nominee again. But I mean, of course, he's a polarizing figure, but also polarization was pretty high at the last election. And I think it was the biggest vote totals for both candidates in US history.
I think Trump got 71 million votes and Biden got 78 or something.
Yeah.
And no candidate in history before the 2020 election had ever got 71 million, let alone 78. Yeah.
No, obviously, population of the States is growing or has been growing. So the raw totals aren't necessarily the best. I think in terms of, return to traditional campaigning. Well, I guess we live in a media environment where there is the kind of lots of saturation of points, or saturation of kind of information. So, I mean, even if there were plenty of like gaffes made by Biden in the previous campaign, so in some sense, I could see that any gaffe he makes in the latest campaign is already kind of priced in. People are already aware of it, and I guess in terms of traditional debates and this sort of thing, be interesting to see how it kind of all plays out. I think the question of his age probably will come up, and there'll be some remarks about that.
And will those remarks land? And that's the question.
Yes, I think will remarks land. I think people will worry, but also, well, I guess it might depend on. Do we know if he's retaining Kamala Harris as his vice presidential candidate? He is. Okay.
No. I mean, I'm nodding that. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. It might depend on his vice presidential candidate.
Really? Okay.
Well, yeah. So I've been kind of thinking about some other stuff recently, where other elections in different countries, where an old kind of old leader of a country, and the prize to be won was not to like replace this person; it was to be their vice president. Because the chances are, so there's this guy called Porfirio Diaz, who was president of Mexico, basically dictator, but in some legitimized by a democratic vote every 4 to 6 years. And like the last election he fought in, the real big prize for like people in his party wasn't replacing on the ticket; it was to be the vice president, because everyone knew that he's probably going to win the election. What happens next? Who's going to be the vice president? So I think in terms of Biden's vice presidential candidate, it might be important if he sticks with Kamala Harris. I think she'll have to kind of again, I might be being unfair, but at least I guess make more of an impact. So it might come down to questions that in terms of other campaigning, sure, the rallies, I guess, because COVID's passed and everything. I mean, Biden seems to handle himself pretty well in terms of engaging with people. He might make the occasional gaffe sort of thing, but all I've seen of him during being president is that he's pretty good, having a conversation with people. So I think in terms of that sort of campaigning, you'll probably be fine. So I guess it's not ideal, but he's got lots of strengths going along with him anyway. So,
I mean, as you might remember, when Obama was running for his first term, this conversation was happening on the other side. Like when the Republican candidate being John McCain and the running mate being Sarah Palin, a lot of people were being, let's say, ageist towards the Republican camp. And they were saying, well, if John McCain dies, which he probably will, is Sarah Palin going to be the president? And then they were, making jokes and memes about how a Sarah Palin presidency would be disastrous or would be funny. Because as you might remember, there was this famous SNL sketch where Tina Fey played Sarah Palin, and that it had the opposite effect. Like she became this, she didn't exactly become politically famous or politically palatable, but she became like an acceptable person or an acceptable name, or as a source for, let's say, memes. Yeah, because the impression was like really too good.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your second question?
Yeah, so the second question was, can we say that no matter how disastrous or how disastrously Biden campaigns for 2024, the young, undecided millennials
Yes, young demographics will still
vote
turn up.
that went to the Democrats last time will go to Democrats anyway, and
Yeah.
they will win. Can we say that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of this will be it'll be motivating turnout, though there's motivating these demographics, but with the way kind of US election works, it all depends on where you motivate them. Because I mean, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. I don't think the pro-Republicans have won the popular vote for the past 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't really mattered where the votes are. It's less where the votes, how many of them you get, is where you get them.
They won in 2004. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because I think like Hillary Clinton ended up with like an extra 3 million votes, but they're all in California, so it didn't really matter. So I think in terms of will kind of it's still, I guess it depends on who he gets towards the side, and there are a bunch of young kind of congressional Democrats who do seem to motivate younger demographics. So if you can get them all on side, still could be maintained. So it depends on kind of the wider environment. There's a really odd thing in the US at the moment where like you can get these economic indicators indicating of how people think how likely a recession is or something. And it's been quite high for quite a while. But also, I think yesterday, the US posted really good job numbers again. And unemployment's down to 3.4%, I think, which is unheard of. They thought like the natural rate of unemployment was 5%, say in like the early 2010s. So in terms of economic kind of outputs and everything, the US economy is running the best it has been for a very long time. And lots of, well, I just want to complete my point in terms of like a lot of electoral outputs and kind of voting stuff, basically about how well do people feel. And if the economy is running well, then people will vote for the person who's in charge.
That's right. Yeah.
If you can get that on board, then that will kind of work for him. So there is, I forgot this. Yeah, though I think I've seen some statistics that young people aren't as enthusiastic about Biden as they used to be. So it will be interesting to see if you can win them over.
Because last time in 2020, even if they weren't too enthusiastic about Biden, they were enthusiastic against Trump, and that helped.
Yes. And I think that's probably the best bet to get. It's I mean, it's hard to judge Biden, I feel, because is he a popular president or is it a relief from not having the other guys in for a lot of Americans? And will that, hold for the next presidential election? It could be just a straight rerun of last time of Biden versus Trump, so I'd imagine it would be the same. DeSantis, who's the current kind of other front runner in the Republicans for the moment. Be interesting to see.
Although he hasn't yet officially announced that he is going to run for president.
Yes, though he was in Japan recently.
He was, yes.
Yeah, so it seems like making moves internationally. Yeah.
If and when he pulled the if and when card.
Like, yes.
So yeah, I remember this is like a funny story. We were at a conference in London, and this was September 2019, and the UK political scene was rife with rumors that there might be a new election anytime. So Theresa May had gone by then, so it was Boris Johnson was the PM. So we were, so there was a conference which had just finished, and we were at the pub. For some reason, this pub had a TV which was showing the news, like not like some generic Sky Sports shit, the news. And Boris Johnson held a press conference, and he said that there isn't going to be a new election. And the whole pub went, oh my God, there's going to be a new election. Because otherwise, why would you call a press conference and tell the world there isn't going to be?
Yes. Protest too much sort of thing. No, of course I'm not going to do that. Of course.
Yeah,
Sure, mate.
yeah. But that's very yes ministery, I guess. The thing I wanted to bring up next was the question of personal energy. So I have seen this from close quarters in various countries. So, for example, um, Angela Merkel, although she was quite old by the time she left office, she never seemed to be the kind of person who seemed extremely motivated or enthusiastic or energetic about, let's say, going on a trip or making a speech or introducing a policy. But I mean, there have been actually with Germany, I'm not too sure what an example of someone who was all those things could be. But let's say you look at Bill Clinton. So when the Don't Ask, Don't Tell campaign was, Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy was being unveiled in the 90s, or even when he was, let's say, dealing with the Oslo Accords, or for that matter, the Good Friday Agreement, the fact that he was a reasonably unold or non-old man helped his image. Right. Similarly, you look at, let's say, David Cameron, who wasn't exactly known as a charmer, I don't think. Like, I don't want to say he managed to charm his way out of lots of things. Maybe he did try to do that, but I don't think he succeeded as much. But you look at the way he conducted himself during the during the period of time when the same-sex marriages, what was it called, Same-Sex Couples Act, was being made into law.
Don't know the precise name, but yeah.
Yeah, marriage equality, right? Yeah. So if you look at his conduct during that period, again, I feel like the fact that he looked a certain way or he looked energetic or motivated helped him. But again, are these things inextricably linked to age? I mean, surely one can be 75 and look energetic.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, I mean, David Cameron was, I want to say, late 40s when he became Conservative leader.
No. He was in his late 30s when he became
late 30s. Okay.
Wait.
Yeah, that's kind of
66. I think he's born in 66 and became the leader in 2005. Something like that. 39.
Yeah. So who was he replacing? Michael Howard.
Michael Howard, but in the leadership contest, he was up against David Davis.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, they had this whole campaign of them trying to soften the Tories' image. The line I remember is "Hug a hoodie," but we're trying to like modernize the Tories' image at the time. I guess and that probably helps in terms of provide a new energy, or at least a renewal, maybe, which people could then latch onto. So I think, in terms of energy and everything, it's a hard one to call.
I mean, the question is, if the circumstances around the politician necessitate, for whatever reason, aggressive campaigning, timeless engagement on anything, or let's say even tireless press tours, then it will surely seem more manageable or more doable if the politician in question is not too old.
Yes. Though, of course, you can just ditch that schedule. And I mean, a lot of that was just kind of political campaigns in the US have so much money flowing through them. They have a lot, they can do whatever they like, basically, if you've got enough money. So I do feel sometimes a lot of, we need to do something, this is something, let's do it. Whether it's maybe not as effectual as they might imagine. But it's hard to judge. I mean, also, he doesn't necessarily, I think, again, the incumbency advantage will help. Because you can just go, I don't have time to campaign, I'm being president. I think many times you can keep mentioning, I'm president.
Yeah, that is a very good point, because studies show, apparently, and as an academician myself, I hate the term studies show. What study? Which journal did it come out in? Whatever. So studies show, apparently, that the older the candidate is, the easier it is for them to raise money in the US. And in the US, raising money is like quite a non-trivial part of the campaigning project. So you can't get situations like someone young being dropped into a safe constituency seat, like it happened with, let's say, Rishi Sunak in 2010 or 2015 or whenever. Yeah, or it happened, or the way it happened with various New Labour picked people in '97 and so on. You can't really have that because when they will be running for their seats in there, I don't know, in the midterms or whatever, if they can't raise enough money, the people that they will be competing against will raise so much more that they will be sort of buried in the news waves or in the airwaves or whatever. Am I taking it?
I think it would depend on the state. I think if you ran, depends on the state and depends on what the state of like the parties are. So, for instance, if you were the only candidate for the Democrats in, I don't know, somewhere in Brooklyn, chances are you're going to be elected because people all the time pick party over anything else.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
It depends on how safe, but I mean, the US, when it gets competitive, it gets very competitive, and yeah, if you don't have name recognition, then that's it. And to get name recognition, you put your name out there. You put your name out there by running ads on TV, putting adverts on the radio. I mean, although radio's very much skewed towards older demographics in the US.
Patreon.
As
a website.
Yeah.
As a website, I think it's being extremely useful to many US politicians now. Although, having said that, like even when you look at let's say how Trump was running his 2016 campaign, like running for the candidacy was one thing, but then when he had to run for president, I mean the fundraising or crowdfunding or crowd pleasing or crowd appeasing tactics got a notch more aggressive, and I mean, like very visibly so. So yes, I guess that's a very interesting and important point to keep in mind, that even if you're very young and full of energy, and you are like in a situation where not one side has the clear advantage, you are gonna get like buried alive if you can't.
I think this moves on to something you want to speak about as well, which is you're saying, you know, only older candidates can like raise money, but I think that's kind of consequence of the older generations of the US having all the money in the first place. So I mean, the US, you know, not as much as say here or Germany or Japan or anything, but it is an aging society. And to talk about who holds the wealth in that society is generally, you know, the boomer generation. And I mean, Biden's pre-war generation. Yeah. So yes, I think in terms of it's interesting. You know, young candidates can't necessarily break through these days because they just don't necessarily have to stay in the social circles to get started, or if they do try and, I mean, the other way, if without having kind of friends, you know, who can, you know, lend you money on political campaigns to, you know, be a part of a political party, but political parties are dominated a lot by older members these days. I mean, you only have to look at the composition of, I don't know, senators, Democratic senators in the US to know that it's heavily weighted. I mean, I think Congress, both houses of Congress, the oldest they've ever been. It's trending quite old quite quickly. So even in terms of, you know, becoming a younger member, it's so if you want to be like, I don't know, a 40-year-old, try and run for something, you know, there's probably still a good chance getting it, but you're probably going to might be beaten out by, say, 50 or 60-year-old because, you know, they've been in the party longer, it's their turn. But if we keep doing this, it means the kind of age of the candidates is going progressively older and older. And yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, if we're talking about age affecting candidates, I mean, the other big case in the US at the moment is Senator Feinstein. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Dianne Feinstein. Have you not kept up to date with this?
Let me. How do you spell the last name?
Fein.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. I think she's 89.
Is 89.
Currently ill. I think she's got shingles. And because of that, she hasn't been able to attend kind of or do any sort of work as a senator, which means that the Senate can't, the committee which sends judges to the Senate to be approved can't actually run, or there's not a Democratic majority anymore. So, yeah, I mean, that's another kind of interesting thing in terms of age. If you I mean, the older you get, the chance of being ill or just higher. Just the chance of dying are higher. So if you're having these situations where the only way, the way this can be resolved is if she resigns, but I don't think she wants to. So it's you're going to get these cases if you get older and older kind of politicians when everyone's got their natural pride and they don't want to kind of resign. They don't want to step out of the way because they believe they can still contribute, and maybe they can, but it increases the risk of you getting the situations where you get to sudden kind of slow down in anything the party wants to do because the members just can't attend anymore because they're ill.
And they vote by proxy?
I don't think so. Well, I think there's definitely things they could do in terms of that, but that would require passing a bill past the House of Congress, which I think is now Republican controlled and not in their interest to do that. So it's well, I guess maybe it plays on the fact of you taking your risks, and also majorities in the Senate and House can be quite slim. You don't get kind of 60 seat senatorial majorities anymore. So
that's a good point.
That's the margins that fine, you're putting a lot of risk.
Onus on each vote goes up.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before. Someone dying, or the risk of this would, you said John McCain earlier. John McCain is a senator. I think he died in office, and there's lots of cases where there's very worrying. Well, it was very kind of up for grabs in terms of whether he would actually be able to attend to be there for some key Senate vote.
Yes. During one of the attempts by the Trump administration to kill the Affordable Care Act,
yes,
McCain famously did a thumbs down, and it became a meme. And I remember, like, he had a surgery, I think, just days before he showed up to do that vote, or to make that vote, and he had like some stitch on his forehead. Yeah, I remember that. But the thing is, like, when that happened, when McCain did that, there were quite a lot of liberals applauding him for it, being oblivious to the wider situation at large. Like, why is this being important? Like, why? How did it come to this? Like, because I see this other angle as well. So take South Korea, for example. I think South Korea has a law that no one can be president for more than one term.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. As a result of that, strangely, or maybe not so strangely, presidents, once they're in power, at a certain point, sort of give up on ratings, approval ratings.
Yes.
Because even if they leave office, like, mired in all kinds of scandals, it's no loss to them.
Yes.
They won't go to jail. So,
well, no, they very much can go to jail. I mean, I think Korean presidents, 4 or 5 of them have been jailed. I know at least one who wasn't jailed and got released, and
really,
President Moon's pardons.
Oh no. Okay, sorry. Okay, no, sorry. Yeah, okay, then maybe they can indeed go to jail. Maybe they do. But anyway, so the point is,
you are right about the end of towards the end of the term, they can take more risks because I mean, there's risks and there's illegal risks. They can take more, legitimate risks along with the.
Yes. So, I mean, my point is, an analogous argument can be made with presidents that are too old, or with heads of state that are too old, I guess. Like, if they know they're not going to run for office come the next time, maybe the incentive for them to keep performing well, or to keep appeasing the electorate, sort of goes down. I don't know.
I think there probably is something in that. If you kind of know you're on your way out, then there's definitely don't have to worry about the next kind of however much. Then
is there? Okay, I have 2 other questions, and they're somewhat related.
Sure.
one of them will probably make you unhappy.
That's
so
fine.
let's so when is there a connection to be made between, let's say at any given point of time, I take the average age of the electorate. Is there any connection to be made between that number and what the ideal age would be for the elected head of state? Having said that, I must add, and this is the part that, I mean, it made me unhappy when I found it. When I say the electorate, universal adult suffrage is a very novel concept, even in the US. I think the 26th Amendment passed in 71 became one of, ironically, became one of Nixon's key legislative achievements, like setting up the Environment Protection Agency.
Yes, the EPA.
So anyway, so yeah, is there a connection to be made between the average age of the electorate and the ideal age for someone who could be president?
I can speculate, but I don't know. I guess my speculation would be that yes, in that if the kind of dominant demographic of voting demographic would probably tend to vote for someone who's like them or serves their interests, which will tend to be someone in their demographic group.
That's the thing. Is it that straightforward? I mean, this would be an
no, obvious... it's not straightforward. I'm speculating. So yeah. That would be my guess, but it's hard to judge. I mean, I guess you can kind of think, you don't have to do, I think of only universal suffrage sort of thing. I mean, if when it was just, manhood suffrage with property requirements, they tended to elect someone who, had a lot of property requirements and was generally in upper classes. So I guess the kind of composition of electorates, where they will kind of select for someone who's like them. So if you're looking at the dominant group in the
okay, this theorem is true, I think, but the conclusion is like superfluous.
Yes, I know it's superfluous. But I'm trying to
who are voting if a selection criterion for inducting people into the suffrage umbrella is possession of property, and then they elect someone who has a lot of property.
Yes, they needed to do that in the first. Yes, it's superfluous.
Exactly. The person who is likely to be elected or who is on the ballot paper obviously has a lot of property.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I know it's superfluous. I was just trying to, well, I guess it depends on, I guess the wider point is whoever's the dominant kind of political group in society will vote for someone will select someone who's part of their group.
Exactly. Dominant group of society. Like I recorded an episode on the 1997-2024 parallels for next year with a journalist friend of mine. And I asked him this question, like, for the next UK election, can you think of a dominant group or like a class of people or a category of people who might be like a very key voting bloc? And he said, well, it's a parliamentary system, so it's slightly different. And he gave a very interesting answer. And I'm going to tell you the answer, then I'm going to ask you if one could maybe imagine an answer of that sort for the US. So he said, the average Dino, the archetypal British man who doesn't make a lot of money, maybe is lower middle class or middle class, has a wife, has two kids, has a nice car on finance, goes to 2 holidays a year. Like he recited the whole meme.
Yes.
His point was in 2024, Dino is going to vote Labour, and that is like a key shift in like the voting intention of Dinos from 2019 till now. Can we think of a similar mimetic approach to what's likely to happen next year in the US? Or is it a bit more difficult because it's basically a referendum on two candidates? Actually, it should be easier, right? Because it's a referendum on two candidates and not first past the post.
I'm just trying to kind of think of my demographic groups in the US.
They go big on this college degrees, no college degrees thing.
Yes. I mean, it's the same the UK has a similar thing of, I'm sure it holds across other countries as well. I think for the moment, still the dominant group's going to be kind of the boomer generation. They're still around. They're getting older, but even then, the Generation X. So let's go through it. And there's millennials, and then Generation Z.
So boomer generation means the first generation of kids born after the Second World War.
Yes.
Yeah.
Came for the baby boom. So I think
X is what?
X is after baby boomers. So I think it's probably going to be
okay. No. Okay, I have
70s
Yeah.
to late 80s.
And
And
the
then
silent generation were the kids who were born in the late 30s, I guess.
yes,
They
so I
grew
think
up during the war.
a member of the silent generation.
Sorry?
I think Biden's a member of the silent generation. What I can remember, I guess that makes sense. Oh, born during the war. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of like a demographic group in the US, hard to know. I mean, it's a bigger, more diverse place than the UK. Because you can always talk about, the Hispanic voting bloc and other kind of voting blocs. So I mean, it'll depend state by state. Yeah, I can't really think of one in terms of who will be the kind of key swing constituency.
Yeah, because if we could have thought of a voting bloc or a category of people like that, the following question would have been, what's the average age of people who belong to that set? Is it a set? Yeah, it's a set. Yeah, we can distinguish elements.
To the end.
and then
I think that there might be a demographic like this, but I just don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
You'd have to like dig into a whole bunch
what
of
was the demographic that played this role in the 2020 election? Do you know?
No. I know young people swung pretty hard towards Biden, but I think because of the kind of points of a lot of these young people will live in states which are already democratic in the first place, so votes and when you don't need them. I could be wrong. Probably am wrong. No, I'm definitely wrong. I just don't know how. Yeah, I'm not sure what's who will be the kind of key group.
Yeah.
Though I do think be interesting to see what the kind of turnout is for the next election. Well, for a while now, at least previously, in terms of Democratic organizers, Democrats Party organizers, they want to boost turnout, but I'm not sure that's been as helpful as they thought it would be, because turns out if you turn out your voters, kind of encourage the other voters to turn out as well. I mean, we saw it last election, there was a big increase in turnout.
On both sides.
On both sides. So
I misquoted the numbers earlier. Trump got 74 million, Biden got 81.
Okay. Yeah.
And 74 is still.
Yeah, 74 million would have easily won him the previous election on any other previous election. Yeah.
As a final question, who do you think, like, is there anything that Biden can do to make him? First of all, does he have an electability problem? Probably no. Although having said that, I mean, before winning in 2020, he had run for either the Democratic ticket or for the I think he ran in 88 and didn't get the ticket.
Yes.
He ran in 2008.
Yeah.
Didn't get the ticket. But did he ever run as a third? No, I don't think he ever. No. Yeah. So does this show that he isn't exactly too electable? Because I don't want to say he has an electability problem, but then again, it's not like he has never had such problems before. So the follow-up question was, if there is like an electability issue here, is there something that he can do now that will maybe help him get better?
Well, I think for his electability issue, Again, incumbency is a huge advantage. He's been elected, so he can get the job. He can be in the job. But I guess for next time, and for being re-elected, I think there's definitely kind of. Well, I think maybe I can't say a viable alternative at the moment. So it's kind of he's the candidate the Democrats have got. So in that case, you're not really voting for necessarily him, you're voting for the party, which I think will be, it probably is a big reason for the time votes last time. You're voting against them or you're voting for the party. So I guess he seems to have built a good team around him. If that team still remains in place, then you can kind of vote for him in the knowledge that even if things go wrong with him personally, he's still got a good team around him. I mean, it's not just a single person in politics. And I think in terms of like improving his electability, I think we said earlier about will he have the same vice presidential candidate?
I was thinking the same thing just now. Yeah.
Because it could kind of, I mean, I don't think recently been a thing where you switch out your vice presidential candidates, but previously it's happened a lot in the past.
Spiro Agnew, is it Gerald Ford? I'm thinking of that. Let me check. So Agnew was Nixon's VP 68 to 70, or did he resign midway? Let me check.
Sure.
I always remember the name Spiro Agnew because John Oliver once made a joke that if you rearrange the letters, you can write "grow up penis."
Okay.
He was a bit too confederate for Nixon, even apparently. Wait, 1972 election. Who was the running mate? Must have been Ford, right? No. It was Spiro. Okay. When did he stop becoming? So he resigned in 73.
So it's 4K.
Should be, right? Yeah. He was the second VP to resign after John Calhoun in 1832.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So
So you could change vice president, or I guess it depends on the team you build around him.
Well, Pelosi is gone, so
yes.
So
there are other. I mean, he's still got time, kind of running up to election to I don't know, try and make some other people in the Democratic Party more prominent. If you can kind of demonstrate the talent you have.
But might that not be perceived by the electorate as a sign of weakness, or as a, I don't know, sign of the?
I mean, maybe
it's a sign of
hard to judge.
People not having enough confidence in people already around him.
I guess if you're doing a sports analogy, say you've got a strong bench, you've got a strong second team, that always kind of helps. It means you're a strong kind of party. So there is a. Never mind. I think that's probably. Well, I think this all plays in the fact that he is old. Objectively, he's got higher risk. So it's what can you use to mitigate that? And in terms of electability, there's certain downsides to it. It's all about mitigating kind of your bad sides and boosting your good sides. And because of the kind of unique circumstances he has as a candidate, probably going to be a little different than previously. We saw this. Trump's pretty old as well. I think there's comps. You have to look at previous presidents. Reagan got diagnosed with Alzheimer's after being president, but you could make the case that he was probably having symptoms towards the end of his second term.
Okay. But he had a strong VP.
Yeah. But yeah, so you can have a strong VP sort of thing. There's certain things.
Bush Jr. was totally cuckoo by the end of his second term, but he had a strong VP as well.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe not good. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's certain things you can do. But I guess it's still another. I know it does always start incredibly early.
Yeah, the primaries and what's the other word? Caucuses? Yeah.
Yeah, because they already announced his re-election bid. And that's kind
Did
of
you see? Did you see some Kennedy is going to primary Biden?
okay. That's probably just a PR move for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been done before. You run as a candidate, it's not to win, but just to get your name out there. So the next time, yeah.
John Kennedy.
Okay.
No,
Oh, that.
no, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Okay.
Here's as it happens, like anti-COVID and all that.
Okay.
Just coincidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. How is he related to JFK? Nephew.
Nephew. Okay. Oh,
Nephew.
also,
I mean, I brought this up earlier, like this thing that I was saying about doing press tours or doing aggressive campaigning for like a piece of legislation that you want to pass. Is it a thing in a presidential system where it has to go through both houses, and like the president doesn't really go into the debating chamber the way a UK prime minister does, or like an Australian prime minister or a Canadian prime minister does in their respective houses of parliament? So do you think this is an issue at all in the American system? Like if you don't see the president at all, and if you just see him, I don't know, getting into helicopters or getting out of helicopters, taking salutes, receiving salutes, is that an issue?
I'd probably say yes. I mean, the way the US Constitution is written, I think there's some weird way they're doing it, but I think the whole point is the House Congress is supposed to be the body which originates legislation rather, and it goes from there eventually, through the examining process of the Senate, and then it lands at the president's desk. But the president, the US Constitution actually has quite an extraordinary range of powers in terms of executive orders. And I mean, it's an entire co-equal branch of government. He's head of the executive, he's commander in chief. So I think there's, yes. And I guess, contrasting this with, a parliamentary system, there's been, I looked up some kind of UK prime ministers who are kind of old. So Lord Palmerston died in office when he was 80. Gladstone was 85 when he kind of left office finally. But I think that's the problem.
How old was Wilson?
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, John Major has always
it's less of a problem because the way it is, the executive and the legislative body is the same thing. You just get a new person in. Yeah. It's the kind of party which really matters. Whereas I think because there's such a lot of power kind of concentrated in a separate presidency, and I think it does become a problem.
But still,
he probably needs to be out and campaigning and showing himself. You can't really have kind of a president who doesn't really.
Yeah. So engage. I saw someone bringing this up during a debate on, what was the news channel? USA Today? Is that a news channel, or was it just a YouTube video that I saw? Anyway, so someone said that people were complaining that they had seen Biden struggle to walk properly. FDR couldn't walk, and he was a great president. It's like, yeah, but that's not that's not an argument. That's just an example. And FDR, in so many ways, is an exception. Like on so many things. Like, think about it. He's winning his fourth election, and the electoral vote count is like 432-99 or something. So like, he was an enigma in various many ways. But yeah. So do you think the fumbling is going to be a problem in and of itself? Because like once you create a meme and that meme goes viral, the meme gets a life cycle of its own.
Yeah.
Because even if Biden isn't completely senile, people can think that, oh, he is actually senile and he's just reading a script when he's being presidential or doing normal things.
Yes. I mean, lots of the stuff was already coming out during the previous election. People were saying these sort of things. Absolutely. But yes, so it's not great kind of if these things develop, people come up with these impressions. But I mean, in one sense, it might be kind of true, but
kind of true.
Well, he is an old man. He is shuffling. I mean, the entire thing is whether that pertains to his job. I mean, the whole thing about FDR is that, sure, he couldn't walk, but he could do his job pretty well. It's, you know, lots of these things don't actually matter for your job. That's the problem. Can someone make the impression that these things matter for your job?
When we say about people like FDR and I don't want to say LPG. Okay, let's say FDR. Yes, he was good at his job based on what we know. But if the lens of accountability or if the lens of scrutiny was as acute on him as
Yes.
it is on like powerful people these days, it would have been a different story, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think he did keep his polio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hidden, right?
he did keep that hidden from the public.
Yeah, yeah. So think about it, like when he was trying to pass the New Deal legislations and they tried to hack the courts, that could have been a Twitter storm had Twitter existed then.
True. Well, I guess the speed of communication's gone up. Newspapers did get this stuff out.
That is true. That is true. Newspapers were.
I mean, mass
really
media is
powerful.
pretty. It's been around for. Yes, although
Sorry, what?
I guess some of the Twitter stuff means that it's kind of penetrated more in people's lives than has done previously. Previously, you had to go out and get a newspaper. Now it's on, you know, palm of your hand in no time at all. I think some of this, I mean, it's hard to kind of judge these things if it will matter or not. I guess for my part, and kind of my opinion on it would be that a lot of this stuff's, you know, priced in. People have seen this stuff before. All this stuff happened during the previous election. So lots of people have already made their judgments already. I mean, there might be some more new evidence that might sway some people, but
That's right.
I'm not sure it will be kind of massive.
That's a good point. That's a good one. For many people, the reaction might be, okay, what's the new argument now?
Yeah.
Like we have seen all these things before. Like,
Yeah.
what's the new argument? And interestingly, I think, okay, let me check. How old is Bernie Sanders? Like, what's the age difference between him and?
Oh, he's like 80.
Oh, he's older.
Yeah,
What?
he's older.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's 81. Okay. So if, for example, if he was the president and if he was going about his like day the way Biden goes about his day, I don't think he would have. I mean, I don't think things related to him would have been considered immediately newsworthy the way they are considered immediately newsworthy when it's Biden. Because
maybe I think it depends who you get gunning for you, basically. As soon as you got, you know, lots of people, well, it's just the kind of nature of media. People are gunning for you, then they'll take anything they can. Yeah, I don't think Sanders, if he'd won or whatever and gone for re-election, if he'd had a heart attack during office, I think that would have mattered a lot.
I don't know why. I always find this funny.
Yeah. But I guess. I guess other kind of, I was just thinking of other kind of injuries or illnesses during office. I think was, what's his name? Gigantic senator from Pennsylvania, Fetterman. Yeah, I think he was elected in the recent midterms. I think there was a big thing in his campaign where he had a stroke, but still managed to win his campaign. So maybe with maybe the kind of electorate can be a little more forgiving about these things than you might imagine. Fetterman, Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania, sorry, guys. For some reason I wrote Florida. Yeah, got it. I just googled Pennsylvania, that senator. John Fetterman, right, okay. He's not that old.
Not old, but he has had a stroke.
Okay. Jesus, he looks like Billy Bob Thornton from the 90s. Is that the name, Billy Bob Thornton? Yeah.
I don't see it, but sure. Maybe there's something there.
Right, yeah. I see your point.
Yeah. So I guess Biden's maybe had a few little stumbles or whatever, but I guess he's had nothing major. So maybe if something major came up, then it would be a problem. But it's just small little things, then people are going to kind of price there. No. Like, I guess, he is old. So some of these things are bound to happen.
Because as you know, there's this term that is used quite a lot whenever there's an election coming up, October surprise. If come next October, everything is going like quite smoothly for the Biden campaign, and then suddenly there's a health thing, then that could very
that
ironically
could very
be
well,
the
yes. So
bit of
yeah, I
a
think
surprise.
but
Let's
this
say
is,
he's so happy that everything is going too well that he has a heart attack out of that happiness.
but I guess this is the thing about this might be a problem because just the risks of all this stuff is higher. I mean, it can obviously happen to people who are younger, but you're taking
Having
more
said
risks.
that, I again saw quote unquote a study that said that if you have lived until 80, that means you have been healthy so far. Well, no, that strictly means you haven't died so far. So that also apparently implies that if you are healthy at 80, you can be healthy at 95. Again,
Yeah.
these sorts of things don't make like
No,
logical.
it's classic probability. What's the probability of this happening given this? I mean, the
Come
life
on.
expectancy for myself, my life expectancy is 85, but if I were 80, then my life expectancy would be 89 because it'd be higher because I've
That I
got
can
there already.
accept. That I can accept. But that doesn't mean that just because you haven't had any major health issues until 80, you won't have them the next day. You can.
Of course not. Yeah, but I mean, it's all playing probabilities.
Conditional probability, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
What's the life expectancy of person X? If I feed you the knowledge that he is alive at 80.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
Oh, immediately goes up. Yeah.
Goes up. Yeah.
Okay, what did you say? It was life expectancy?
No, my point is when you are of an age when you could die, then does the fact that your life expectancy is higher than your current age help you? If you're 99 and your life expectancy is...
Well, I think, yeah, it depends on kind of what tables and everything you're using to kind of calculate all this stuff. I think as you tend towards like late 90s, I don't know, it's from 90 onwards, I think your chance of dying actually levels off.
What?
As in, it's the same each year.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, yeah, there's a certain point where it's just kind of, yeah, you've got the same chance each year of dying. Yes, so
yeah,
I think, yeah, it's just I think the case of him being too old for action can be made because it's just increasing risk. But I guess the other, I can't wait that as I can't see the other viable candidate for the Democrats. So you play with the hand you have.
Yeah, I mean, if he had decided to not run for office next year, it would have been like not to see. If he had decided to not seek re-election, then yeah, and that would have been an interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, also the Democrat Party's kind of failed to generate viable candidates. There's a, I think there's a
no.
There's quite a big gap between the kind
Elizabeth Warren, Beto Rook,
yeah. Possibly, but I mean, they all went last time, and then it didn't work out. Which isn't, I mean, Biden went last, was gone before and didn't work out, but no, it's possible. And I guess with a lot of these candidates don't necessarily have to have mainstream recognition before they start running.
I was
thinking Obama was pretty unknown.
Exactly, because since the election is basically a referendum on two people, you need to have that name recognition. It can't just be the official face of a known party. You need to have that recognition.
No, I think if you get to the point of being the official face, then that's your name recognition. I mean, the primary process in the US is so long. I think that's enough time to get like your face plastered all over the place.
That's right. I remember quite a few US presidential campaigns, or let's say, I remember quite a few 2-year periods during which I learned for the first time that so-and-so person existed. And then in the years afterwards, that person stayed politically important. For example, I hadn't even heard of Obama before 2008. I wasn't like old enough to care about these things, maybe.
Yeah. But he was largely political, not only because he's one of the youngest presidents the US had for quite a while. I think he's known for he gave a good speech at one point of being senator from Illinois. And yeah,
Really?
yeah. I mean, a senator makes good speech, isn't? I
I mean,
think.
that was what he was known for, I think.
Uh,
Possibly. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm trusting my memory here.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Do you think there is any need to have 22nd Amendment style amendment regarding the age, or like a bound on the age?
I mean, there already is a lower bound.
Yes.
You have to be 35.
Yeah.
And a natural citizen. So you have to be being born in the US.
They can't be a naturalized citizen.
Can't be a naturalized citizen. You have to have been a citizen from birth. I think maybe you have to have been born in the US. No, that doesn't make sense. Because John McCain was, I think, was born in Panama, but in the US concession north, maybe something like that.
Really? Okay.
But yeah, so for instance, Arnold Schwarzenegger was, naturalized U.S. citizen, became governor of California, but couldn't run for U.S. president because he wasn't actually born citizen in the U.S. In terms of operational, can you put a maximum age on presidency? I mean, you always get exceptions. I mean, there's plenty of your risks of cognitive decline or getting one of these illnesses like Alzheimer's, dementia goes up, but doesn't mean you'll get it. You can still be as sharp as ever when, I don't know, hit your 90s or even beyond. I mean, I think Henry Kissinger is still going around, leading panels and contributing, and he's 99. So
No, but
I'm not ever advocating he should ever be president, but
yeah,
you can't really.
I mean, my viewers are probably unaware of your politics, but it's fine. They don't need to.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, you're not the kind of person who would endorse Henry Kissinger to be the US president.
No, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I was going to say.
I guess the other thing is, I mean, you could say that also the same thing about 35 is a pretty arbitrary age, so you could probably impose an upper bound. I don't know, 75. That would exclude only Biden, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Trump as well. Trump is 76.
Yes, but it wouldn't have excluded him the first time.
The first time, yeah.
So I guess you could throw in something. But I guess the US constitutional amendments are incredibly hard to do. So that maximum age would stick for a while. It couldn't be adjusted depending on advances in medical science and everything. So, yeah, hard one.
No, I was going to say, can't there be a requirement that you have to pass like a scrupulous health exam?
Maybe. But how do you'd have to probably update that scrupulous health exam all the time, or I suppose you could write in that and it'll be up for the legislature to determine. But then again, that would probably quickly become partisan, and that the legislator can write the test, which
Exactly.
I mean, ultimately all politics comes down to who's writing in the first place. So it's you can write all the kind of high-minded stuff you like. It depends on the people implementing it. Yeah, so maybe could put in some sort of health test. So maybe the kind of solution would be for the US to change its political system in some way, so there wasn't so much concentration of power in the president in the first place. I mean, a lot of this issue only matters so much because there's so much responsibility pushed on the one position. So, I mean, but then again, you'd have to change the US Constitution, which, as I've just said, is really hard to do. I don't think it was intended to be so hard, but that's the way it's worked out. Yeah.
Do you have any final points to make?
Don't think so. I think that covers a lot. It's just older leaders and general, even talking like, non-democratic systems, there's always a problem of, getting an old leader. And there's the problem of succession. How do you determine succession, or how do you make sure there's a smooth transfer of power between one person when they're no longer fit to serve? If you kind of concentrate more power and don't have more people around, then of course this becomes a more and more fraught situation.
In non-democratic systems, it's always it's always a problem. Like, even if the dictator in power is actually competent, even if the dictator is competent, there is the problem that who is going to succeed him or her, and are they actually competent, or is it a show? Like, for example, let's say Mugabe in Zimbabwe or Gaddafi in Libya. There were things that Mugabe did in Zimbabwe that were quite widely considered to be positive by the Zimbabwean public. But looking back at his time as the Zimbabwean, was he president? I think it was president. Now, like, historians will have a lot of things to unpick and re-explain and assess and analyze. Same with Gaddafi. Same with like lots of, I don't know, Saddam Hussein, Putin, whatever.
I think one thing Biden probably has going for him is that he hasn't actually been president because of term limits. He hasn't been president for too long. A lot of the problem, older leaders, is the fact that they've just been in power so long in the first place. So there hasn't been kind of a turnover of, ambitious people want to hold power. If it's been the same person holding power for 30 years or something, then that becomes a big problem.
Famously that wasn't a law in the US until the 40s. In the 50s, when was it ratified? Maybe it was ratified in the early 50s.
I think it was one of the earlier constitutional amendments proposed. I think it's like first proposed in like the 1800s or something. It's never got ratified until much, much later.
But possibly, but I'm saying, like, Washington famously said that he will not run for a third term, right? And then there were other people who were popular but still decided to not run for a third term. I think Ulysses Grant,
because of Washington's example.
Ulysses Grant, Thomas Jefferson, maybe Andrew. No, not Jackson. No, maybe Jackson. Yeah, Andrew Jackson.
I think he had 2 terms.
2 terms and didn't. This was.
The president said that. Because arguably George Washington, if he was a different man, could have become King George of the United States. But Wall made one of the better decisions in signing 2 terms. I'm out. That.
Okay, Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on to discuss this. Like when I thought about this topic, like, you were the first name that came to mind, because you are in this select group of people that I know who don't squirm when you ask them to give examples going back centuries, especially like Anglo-American examples. Like the fact that you could, for example, cite the age of, let's say, Gladstone or Palmerston in a very matter-of-fact way, and not feel the need to, like, educate the viewers or whatever. Like, that's a big plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good to know.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll stop recording now.